All right, can you confirm if you can hear me? Any Joseph?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, welcome to today's session again in our Nigeria M365 community, where we'll talk about everything Office 365, enterprise mobility plus security, and Windows 365. We are actually glad to have you join us today again on our series. We've been on this series for a long time, though we are planning to round up the series, but we still have one more part to take, which is actually the team's voice um the team's voice itself, which will be starting by next week by one of our team's voice SME. He's supposed to join us today, but he's not available today. But by next week we'll be having that session. So today we'll have an interactive session basically. So let me introduce myself again. I'm Emmanuel Itoje. I'm a digital transformation professional with experience in infrastructure, cloud services, and productivity application with a focus on enabling businesses using technologies to optimize organization strategy. So I'm big on Microsoft certifications. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I'm also Microsoft Teams engineer expert, Teams administrator, collaboration and communication system engineer, identity, and on the Azure side, Azure security engineer, and Azure solution architect. So, like I said earlier, our speaker for today is not around. So, I'll just go over our housekeeping rule again. So, the session will be recorded, and I'm very sure, I said last week, the last session is actually updated on our YouTube channel. So, if you're actually not talking, you can please mute your mic. Then, if you have any question and answer, definitely today is actually an interactive session. So, we'll be having a lot of interaction. So any questions you have so far in our discussion so far on Microsoft Teams, today is an interactive session, so you can actually feel free to ask. So please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our videos. It actually helps to get the video out there to more people to see the content that we are sharing in this community. Then if you have any feedback for us at all, you can feel free to leave your feedback on the feedback form on the WhatsApp group. You can also leave your feedback. We actually value your feedback because we are doing a lot of things like we are planning a conference that'll be like a physical meetup. One of the things you're planning. So if you have any feedback for us at all, like in terms of how we should organize a conference and all that, we really appreciate that a lot. So our speaker today is not available, so I'll actually be starting the session. And if you have any questions, you can please go ahead and ask your questions because today's session is more interactive. Right. So far we've been discussing the Microsoft Teams, and then we've been walking through the Microsoft Teams admin center. So today we'll continue. So there are just few parts I want to actually point to us today. But if you have questions, this is an interactive session. Just let me know, and we can be answering those questions on the go. So it's just to show us few parts of the admin center in the Teams part. So going to the Teams admin center now. So far we've had a lot of our Teams experts walk us through different parts of the Teams admin center coming from the Teams itself. We'll discuss managing Teams, team settings, Teams policy, Teams templates. We talk about users, the external users, how to manage users. Then we talked a bit about the Teams devices and we talk about Teams meetings. So I think the parts that we've not actually talked about is messaging and Teams application. So let me just, if you have question, please just let me know anytime, right? I'll attend to your question. So let's check the messaging first. So on the messaging, we have the messaging policies. So what is messaging policy? So these are actually what we use to control what chats and channel messaging features are available to users on the Teams. So basically, let me show us. I don't know why this thing is showing here. I don't want to pin it. All right. Let me go to my Teams application here. So I want to show us what the part that this messaging actually controls while it is loading. So we want to see, so for every Just like Microsoft SharePoint works on the permissions. For Microsoft Teams, it works on what we call policies. Like if you go through each and every one of this, you will see that there is one policy or the other. Like here under Teams, you have Teams policy, you have templates policies, then Teams updates policies. If you go on there, meetings as well, you will see meeting policies, you see live event policies. So Teams basically work with policies. So when you know how to configure the policies, you will actually go a long way to be able to manage your Microsoft Teams environment. So under policies, there is always what we call the global org-wide default. So the global org-wide default is like the default that has been created by Microsoft. That okay, these are the different options that are available by default. If I open this global org policy now, I'll be able to see that the name of the policy, then the summary of what the policy is about, and different settings that has been pre-configured by Microsoft. You can see that the owner can delete is turned off, delete sent message is turned on. So we can see different thing here. So for best practice in Microsoft 365, the global org policy is always best to actually leave it like that. So in case you want to change something, instead of editing the global org policy, it's not actually advisable. What is advisable is that you go back and create your own policy. So under the message in here, you will see the option for hard policy. So under the add policy, the first thing you're expected to put is the name of your policy. So I can say custom messaging policy. So depending on what you want the policy to do, because you can create as many messaging policies as you like. You can create for each department in your organization. You can also create for maybe each session. Maybe your organization has branches in different areas. It's an international company. You can create policy for users in different regions, users in the US, users in the UK. You can do that. So that's what the name of the policy should be. So if you're going to put the description, you can say, okay, let's say this custom policy, messaging policy I'm creating is for users in the branch office in US, for example. So I can just say, okay, this is custom policy for US office, custom policy for US office. So wherever, maybe you are leaving the organization forever, whoever is replacing you as the Teams administrator or the Microsoft 365 administrator, we know by the description that, okay, this policy was created for the users in the US office. So that's actually one of the best practice I advise in creating policies generally in the Microsoft Teams. So we'll see by default that this actually follows everything that we have in the global hog settings. So for this, you can now customize this to suit your needs. Let's say, for example, now you don't want users to be able to delete chats. You can turn this off. You don't want them to be able to delete chat. Maybe users are leaving the organizations, for example, before on assigning the license or deleting the users. You want to actually see the kind of chats that the users have been having. So you can turn that off. That's one of the use case. Then you don't want users to edit sent message. So it doesn't make sense. Maybe user made a mistake. For example, now send a message, and the user should you should actually give the user the opportunity to edit the message. To correct the message. I think even on WhatsApp now we have that feature available even on WhatsApp itself now for you to be able to edit the message that you've sent before. Then you can now resend it. Then the other option for this policy is as read receipt. So you want users to be able to control if they've actually received the message, they've actually read the message, or you can even decide to turn it off for everyone in the organization, or you can turn it on for everyone in the organization. So anything you configure here, it will affect everybody in the organization. They will not be able to change it on their hand. So let's say I want read receipts to be turned on for everyone in the organization. I'll just select turn on for everyone. Then for charts, so there are other informations there, like it's telling us that you find related settings at meetings and meeting policies. So if you go to meetings and meeting policies, so under meetings here, then with meeting policies, so it's telling us that there are related settings that are actually available there. So do you want users to be able to chat with groups? So if you don't want them to be able to chat with group, you can turn this off. But if you want them, you can turn it on. Let me check my Teams before we go, so I can actually explain these features for us. Let me just search for a random users in the organization. Let me search for the, let me just type this user. Hello. So this is like one user in my organization, right? So those features, these are actually the features. Like, I don't know if you can see all these ones here. So these are the options that you're saying. Like if I say hello, for example, now, if I've turned the feature that I don't want users to be able to delete the message or delete this chat, for example, it users, you see that the user have the option to edit this. Why? Because of the, it's actually the global hawk wide policy that I still assigned to the user. I've not assigned the custom policy to this user. I've not assigned it to this user. Let's go back to the admin center. So depending on what you want to, so you have GFIS, for example. If you don't want users to have options for GFIS, let me turn this up because I'm going to assign this policy to the user. So this is what we call GFIS here. So this is GFIS here. If you click on this, for example, now, so different things that you can use, like people used to have fun in the organization. But if you don't want that, you can turn it up. And by the time I assign the policies, it actually take times for Microsoft Teams policies to actually propagate, basically. So let me go back. So if I don't want it to be using this, I can turn it off. Then what are the, if this is on by default, then you have the option to select, okay, do you want the GFIS content to be strict, to be moderate, or no restriction? But I'm turning it off, so that doesn't concern me. So do I want minds in the conversation? I believe we should be familiar with minds. So if I go back here, a sticker, emoji, let me click on these. Okay, these are apps. Okay, I will check that later. So that's actually where you configure. So if you want them to be able to, if you want URL preview, when maybe somebody send a link, you want the user to be able to preview the URL of the link to know where the link actually is on it. So this is actually best practice. Then if you want stickers in conversations, you can actually turn that on. Then this one says translate messages. So there's a feature that allows, maybe you're collaborating, you have team of your team, some member of your team, they are actually, maybe they're in the Japan, they're in other Asian countries, and they will need to collaborate with you. So the Teams application actually provides opportunity to actually translate the message. So even though you're collaborating, they are not speaking English. So the Teams application can actually interpret whichever language they've actually used to send message to. That's one advantage of the Teams, and it will interpret it, translate the language for you. Then send urgent messages using priority notifications. This is what it's talking about here, this feature here. So if I want to send urgent message, so it will be notifying the recipient every 2 minutes. Maybe you need somebody, you need something get done, but you know that this user doesn't really respond to chat on time. So you can use that feature to actually prioritize and to actually send urgent. Okay, please kindly send the document. So what happened is that even if the users didn't actually read this message, there will be a notification under the activity for the user that this will be reminding the user every minute, every 2 minutes, based on the time that was sent. Every 2 minutes, it will remind the user that no, there's a message that is actually urgent, waiting for you to actually respond to. So that's actually a very good feature that we can leave on. Then say create voice messages. So do you want to allow users to be able to create voice messages in chats and in channels, or you want to allow in chat only, or you don't want to actually enable it? I think this is actually a good feature that organization can use. Like, I think the voice feature was just added recently. So there's even a video clip here. So there are a lot of updates that has happened to the Teams itself. Let me see the video. So because I'm using my camera for a different application, so it's not allowing me to, so I can record audio here for the user. So I can just say one or two things and send, okay, the user, I need to send a message. I need to explain to the user. So just record the message for the user here. And it gives us opportunity to record for just 1 minute. So with 60 seconds, you can record it. Once you record, you can review. Let's stop the recording. You can review the message. Then once you review, you can now send to the user. So the recording will be sent to the user. If it's also a video as well, you can also record the video. Then it even give us the option to record our screen, record screen. So you can record even your screen here. So if you want that feature to be available for your users, so you just leave it on for them. This create voice messages and all that. In that sense, so this feature affects the mobile application. So you say on mobile devices, display favorite channel above recent chat. So maybe most of the users they are working on the field and they have direct access to their mobile devices, for example. Now, so with this feature, if you actually there are channels that they are actually collaborating more. So if you want them to be able to display their favorite channel on the above recent chart, then this option is actually where you enable or disable. Then if you want users, you want to remove users from group chats. So if you want users to be able to remove other users from group chats and all that, you can do that. Then text prediction. So text prediction is actually maybe AI helping you to actually predict what you want to actually type next. So the next is to save this. So after configuring the messaging policy, you save this. And usually for Microsoft Teams policy, it usually takes between 24 to 48 hours for it to actually propagate. So it ensures that we have a custom messaging policy here. So the difference between the two is that for this, to tell you is this for the global hog-wide policy, to tell you that is it a custom policy? It is no. Is it assigned to any group? It is no. But for this, it's telling me that the cost is a custom policy. Yes. Is it assigned to any group? It is no. So we can now go to group policy assignment. So after creating the policy, it is not enough that you create the policy. Which group of users are they users in a particular region, like I explained, users in the United States, users in the United Kingdom, or the users in the Canada that you want to actually assign this policy to. That means every user that has been assigned to the policy, whatever you've configured for the messaging policy will be what will be available for them. So most times, administrators configure policies and they're assigned to users, and you see them raising support requests to Microsoft support engineers to, I can't see this particular feature. So one of the places to check is to check, okay, is this user assigned to any particular policies in terms of messaging, live events, and all that. So once you check that, you can also check, okay, what has been configured for the policy. That's actually one way to isolate the issue to be sure that it is not a policy that has been created on the tenant that is actually affecting the user. So now at the group policy assignments, you have the option to add. Once you click on the add, so you can search for a group. So any group you have in the tenants, I'm not sure if I have any group called HR, but let me just search for any group. So no group with H. Do you have any group with J? Let me see. Do you have any group with T? Okay. So let me select Team Alpha, for example. So which policy do I want to assign? Custom policy. So what is the rank? The rank is simply saying that which policy should actually, take precedence. Just select rank one if you want the selected policy to be effective for all users in the selected group. So if I want this policy to actually be effective, then I have to give the option for rank one. Then I'll click on apply the policy. See, assigning custom messaging policy to Team Alpha may take some time to take effect depending on the number of users in the group, and the changes can be rolled back immediately. So I'm confirming this. So now, so it tells me that there's a group, Team Alpha, that has been assigned a custom messaging policy already. So if I go back to my Microsoft 365 Admin Center, if I go to Teams, then go to Active Teams and Group here. So let me look for Team Alpha. This is Team Alpha. I want to see the users in the Team Alpha. Okay, so I only have this particular user in the Team Alpha. That's the owner. Let me see the member. So these are the members. So I want to add this my account here. as a member of that team alpha. So I'm selecting that, then I'm adding. So what it means is that because this messaging policy that has been created has actually been assigned to the group. So any users that you add to that group will automatically, the policy will actually automatically affect them as well. So even though it will take time to propagate because the user is just added to the group and policies takes time to propagate because depending on the number of users in the group. So if I go back to the Teams admin center, for example, let me refresh this page. Let me refresh the active group page as well. So best practice, whenever you make any changes, it's good you refresh the entire window for propagation to happen. So I have a group name called Team Alpha. So I can review the policy that has been assigned, that has actually been created. So everything that has been created here based on the policy is actually what will take effect for those users. So if I thought I don't want those users to be able to do something. Okay, I don't want to use mimes in any conversation. I don't want stickers and all that. Then I save these changes. So the changes will actually take effect for those users. What it means in essence, let me refresh this. Since the user is here, let me refresh these teams. So let me see, it's going to propagate. So because it's still taking time to propagate, some of these things that are here will actually leave, like the one I turned off, the GFs that I turned off and all that, they will actually leave. And also, let me try to do something as well. Hopefully before the end of today's session, we can check it to see if it's actually propagate. I want to turn off create this. I want to not enable the save it. So I want to see maybe before the end. It usually take 24 to 48 hours anyway for it to propagate. So I want to see if it's going to actually propagate before we finish today's session. Please, today's interactive session. Jay, just joining us. Please, you can ask your question. It's just an interactive session. I'm just showing us what we've been done we've been doing so far in the course of the training, because by next week we are moving into or called Teams Voice. So next week in the upper week we'll be discussing Teams Voice and you're going to enjoy the session. So today is just an interactive session. Please feel free to ask your question on Teams or anything we've been discussing so far, from identity, exchange online, SharePoint. Feel free to ask your questions. All right. So that's about the policy. And if I feel that okay, I don't want the policy, I'm done with the policy, I don't want the policy, I can actually if I go back to group policy assignments. So if I'm done with the policy, I don't want to use the policy again. So I can just select the policy and remove the policy. So what it means that every user that is affected with the policy, with will all the every settings for the policy that is affecting the users will no longer affect the users again. So if there is no custom policies assigned to the users, what it means in essence is that what will happen is that automatically the global hog wide default will be assigned to them automatically. So that's why I said earlier that for best practices, do not edit the global hawk policy. Leave the global hawk policy there because it was the policy created by the engineering team by Microsoft. So you create your own custom policy based on what you want because you know what you want, but leave the global hawk for Microsoft. In fact, generally in Microsoft technology, be it Defender, Exchange, anything, once a policy has been created, it's always advisable that you leave that policy. Don't touch, don't tamper with the policy. Create your own custom policy. That's why the plus sign will always be available for you. So Microsoft provide that plus sign so that you can create a custom policy that actually fits your needs. Then once you create that custom policies, assign it to your users, or it could be group, assign it to your group, then you're fine. Because at the end of the day, if you don't want the custom policy that you've created, So what will take effect will be the global org-wide policy that has been created by Microsoft. Just imagine you already tamper with the global org policy and you're trying to troubleshoot. Your mind might not really go to the global org policy, that there's something that has been configured by Microsoft already for you. So that's for best practice. So guys, please feel free to ask your question. It's an interactive session. I'm only just going over everything that we've discussed so far. So that's about messaging. So there's a part also that I want to show us, which is Teams devices. So in my tenant here with Teams devices, the first thing I can see is actually store. So Microsoft actually, the way we have the Microsoft Store in our Windows devices, I don't know if we've seen the Microsoft Store in the Windows devices before. I want to bring up Microsoft Store. So we have the Microsoft Store as an application itself, where you can actually, purchase stuffs from Microsoft. Some are free, some are actually paid services. Let's say, for example, now I want to get Netflix on my device, for example, now. So it tells me that it is free. So I can easily just click on get. So that's basically what Microsoft Store does. And it's the same idea for our Microsoft Teams Store. So with the Teams Store, because Microsoft has what we call Teams devices, that device that actually matches the Microsoft Teams when they are creating the Microsoft Teams itself from when they're upgrading from the Sky for Business. So there are some devices that Microsoft actually, there are some companies that produces hardware that Microsoft collaborated with to ensure that the teams can actually, work very well on such devices. So like under the device, we'll see the home that features different devices. But if you want to check for devices, like it's basically for you to purchase for you. So if you need a camera, for example, or I can get this webcam, for example, now. So it's very easy for you to, make your order from the Microsoft Team Store here, because you are sure that the device you're getting is actually a device that can actually work well with Teams. It's a term that Microsoft used to use for such devices. So I can easily get it by just adding the device to the cart here. So to tell you the price of the device, and if you're checking out, you have the option to put in your details, your car details and all that. So you're signing in into the Teams device store itself. Okay, unifiedcommunication.com. Okay, accept it. All right, so for them to know where they are taking devices to, so you have to put in your shipping details. Once you put in your shipping details there, this option continue to payments will be enabled for you. I'm not buying any device for now. So that's just to show us that you can actually purchase Teams devices that are actually compatible with the Microsoft Teams itself. Then if you these are the home, then the features tell you some feature devices that people usually use that people usually buy. Then you can search for bestsellers too, which are the best-selling devices. So you can see that under the best-selling, we have the phone devices as one of the top best-sellings, because a lot of organizations still prefer to use the phone itself. And but on the phone, they have the Microsoft Teams installed. So Microsoft Teams being, depending on what has been configured, maybe a calling plan or direct routing or the operator connect. So any of them. So based on the organization setup itself. So they buy devices that actually meet their organization needs. Then we can search devices by categories. If you want an headset, so it will show you different headsets. So if there's any of the device that is actually out of stock, you can see for this now, the Microsoft Surface, the Surface Headphone 2.0 is telling us that it's currently out of stock. So what it means is that you cannot actually order for the device. So it shows different, so you can see different devices that you can purchase, and you are sure these devices are compatible with the Microsoft Teams itself. Then for web cameras, so for your meetings, you're the one that like to go into meetings, and probably the laptop you're using, the camera is not very sharp, very clear. So you can get an external camera like a webcam that you can put on your device, and your meetings, you're going into your meeting, your meeting is sharp. They're able to see you very well. Then for speaker phones as well. So I remember working with an organization. They have in their boardroom meeting, they actually install different speaker phones on the table, so that because the boardroom meeting is actually very large boardroom. So with this now we're able to install, do a configuration of the speaker phones. Then we have the Dex phones and the team display. So the Dex phone they are actually the best selling device, because a lot of organizations still, I don't know, they still use all these phones, maybe because of the way the organization is set up. So then we have some Teams devices. I don't know if you've been to some hotels, like they at the entrance of the hotel, they actually install a device. So if it's from that device, you'll be able to check if the meeting hall is actually free or available, is free for use, or is actually booked for a particular hour. So on the device it is configured, you're able to see the time that the hall will be free. You're able to see the time that the hall is actually booked. Then we have monitors as well. So the Microsoft Teams certified devices. So for monitor, I think for now they don't have anything available because it's not showing me. Then we have the Teams room. So the Teams room is actually like an integration, like for your boardroom meeting. If you want to set up a complete system, so you go for the Teams room for your boardroom, so we can integrate different devices together, and you have a seamless meeting, a meeting that you're gonna have a quality sound based on the of course, based on your boundaries, because there's some readiness that you have to check basically. So different Teams room devices that you can actually purchase for your organization, then room system, etc. So you'll be able to configure the Teams room for Windows, then for Android devices. So this will still take you back to where you shop for the device. The Teams room for Android devices, they control and manage your team certified Teams room on Android devices. So this will actually take you to the shop. I want us to be paying attention to something. If you come to Windows here, there is nothing. Or if you go to Android here, we are seeing two things. We are seeing Teams Room on Android. We are seeing a touch console and configuration profile. I'm going to come talk about this very soon. So if you go to Surface Hub as well, you're able to, if you want to, Surface Hub offer all-in-one digital whiteboard. So it's like a whiteboard actually. You can do your video there. You can do your planning, your meetings, your collaboration. So it gives you like a digital collaborating environment. Then we have the panels too. There are devices mounted outside the conference room. Then typical next to the room entrance. So the showroom availability, I mentioned a panel. Okay, that was a screen. So the screen for inside the meeting room itself, by the panel, you just mount it outside the eventual conference rooms or meeting rooms. So from there, people were able to see, oh, this is when this room will be available and all that. Now, I want to tell us about this configuration profile. Let me go to Teams on Android, because for Teams Room on Windows, we don't have it, but we have on Android. If you click on configuration profile, so configuration profile are simply yeah, they are almost like policies too, right? They are almost like policies that you configure, but as the name implies, configuration profiles are things that you've configured to be used for your Android, a Teams room on a Android. So if you have an Android device, or your organization is big on Android platform, for example, now, let's say you have over 50 of them, and you need to maintain like a kind of, you want them to be uniform across board. Every users that have access to that Teams room on the Android device, they should have the same experience in terms of maybe they have the same time zones and all that. So if you click on Add here, so the first thing is to put the name. So let's say the configuration profile here, you're creating it for users in the UK office. So I can just say UK office, for example, then put some users in the UK office. So yeah, so I can now configure, okay, the time device locked. Do I want the devices to be getting locked or not? I want it to be locked. So when should it be locked? Okay, there should be like a timeout of 30 seconds. So if the device is not in use for 30 seconds, let it actually locked by itself. Then how do, because the user needs to actually sign in, just like the way we do our PIN or password PIN on our phone, on our devices. So what should be the device lock pin? So users, this will be configure. So for every users in the, for every devices in the organization, as an admin, you are able to assess if there is an issue you need to troubleshoot. Then the language, so because I selected UK, I'm supposed to actually change this to, okay, let me change to UK. Then the time zone, you have the option. By the time you go down, that's under general. Under the meeting settings, you want to actually, you say maximum room occupancy notification. So if the number of people that should be in that room meeting is actually filled up, there should be like a kind of a notification. Then people can extend their room reservation. So if somebody has actually booked for a particular room for this meeting, I don't want them to actually extend it. This is when they want to use the meeting so that every other person in the organization can also use the same as well. Then under device settings, we'll be able to see things like the teams. So which team do I want for all the users to have? So that means that is a team that every user, because if the devices are actually organization owned, so it's actually provisioned by the company to the users. So as an admin, you can actually manage the team that will be across board, and you have the option here to select the team that fits you. You said devices without updates may not display this team. So the devices must actually be up to date, because if they're not up to date, they will not be able, they will not actually receive any updates that you've changed, any configuration you've configured here. It will not affect those users. Then the timeout for, okay, they want to have the screensaver. Then when should be the timeout for the screensaver? So you configure that. Then the display the backlight brightness. So you can configure this brightness depending on the user's preference, what you want the backlight brightness to actually be. Then for display backlight timeout, you can configure that. If you don't want it to time out at all, you can also configure that as well. Then for eye contrast, so these are basically device settings. Silent mode, you can configure your office hour. So you know that this device, that it's between this time and this time, that is my office hour. Then if you want to configure power saving, then screen capture. So you don't want users to be able to capture what is happening on the device to capture it. So the best practice is actually to turn that off. And the last part of the settings is about your networking. So depending on your organization network details, so your network administrators will actually have the option to, come here and put in different, like they say DHCP is enabled. That means the device will actually pick their IP address directly from the DHCP server. But if you disable this, that means you are saying that you want to put a static IP address on each of those devices. But for best practices for organization that has an on-premise server, a DHCP server, since the devices are actually linked to the server, then it's better to actually leave the DHCP enabled for these. So the devices just go grab an IP address because they are connected to the organization network. So these are the things that the network guys will actually do. So by the time you're done, you just click on you save. So it tells me that I've created the configuration profile to tell who modified it and all that. So if at all I had devices on this tenant, I don't have any device to actually rule. The next is to actually assign the configuration. So it's greater because there is no device here. So once you assign the configuration, automatically all the device that has been assigned this configuration, you just update the device and they will pick up everything that you've actually configured. So the same thing is applicable to some other devices here that has configuration profile. So for the panel, yeah. So you can create the same way too. You can create a configuration profile for the panel as well, yeah, for the phones. So it's available for the phone here as well. So depending on the devices that your organizations are using, that you're assigning to the users in your organization, you always have that option to create those configuration profiles, basically. Please, guys, if you have questions, feel free to ask. It's an interactive, it's actually an interactive session. I'm just going over all this stuff so that by the time we're jumping into our voice next week, we'll be able to flow with our SME that will be coming to take us in that class. So if you have any questions so far, please go ahead and ask your question. So the dashboard is always available for you to manage. You'll be able to see the device summary, the total number of device you have. You're able to see the ones that are online, the ones that are offline. You also see the health summary of the devices. So if there's any device that's having an issue that needs to be troubleshooted, it's going to be here. It's going to give you the number, like a data for your organization. So display your organization, you can always manage everything here. So I'll be jumping into the Microsoft Teams app. So apart from the Teams itself, Teams actually gives you the option. If I go back to my Teams chat here,
Hello, hello,
I just have, yeah,
Mr.
go
Emmanuel.
ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah, go
I want
ahead.
to ask a question.
Go ahead,
What
please.
what are the likely challenges one can have operating this as in on these teams
So
on
most
these
of this
teams?
So most of the settings are actually, so it depends on first what is your organization using, right? So if your organization is actually big on voice, so that means what you'll be focusing on is the voice part. But if your organization are the ones that focuses on devices, they like to use different devices. There are actually troubleshooting articles available for you. So that any particular issue, most of the issues are always around the bandwidth, because Teams itself, as we are on this call, for example, now, this Teams application, if you're using the client application, the one that you installed on your desktop, for example, now, it's consuming more bandwidth compared to the one on the web, right? So most of the things is about ensure that that's why there's always what we call readiness test. So a readiness test will be done for your organization based on your networking. They will check your networking, your bandwidth, and all that. Once they see that, okay, this actually meets the minimum requirement. So those are the things, but the configuration are always automated. And if there is an issue, that means the issue is coming directly from Microsoft. So most times there's what called service incidents that will always be reported, which you can easily check by going to your admin center and go to your health, then go to the service health. So from the service health dashboard, if there's an issue happening that is reported for your tenants, you'll be able to see the reported issues here. So there's no issue reported in the last 30 days. So if there are some issues that have been reported in the past, so you'll be able to see it. So that means all the issues that I have currently has been resolved. Like this now, it's telling me this is Teams. Since we are discussing Teams, for example, say some users, let's open this, for example, now. Say some users may be unable to opt in and out of a call queue in Microsoft Teams. So once you're having an issue, one of the first places to come and check if there's a service incident. Then it's when there's no service in there, then you now go into your configuration, check if maybe there's changes, maybe you have multiple admins on the tenant, then begin to check. But most of the times, once there's an issue with the Teams itself, it's coming from Microsoft itself. So the issue will be reported. And once the issue is reported, you'll be able to know, okay, this is coming from Microsoft. So the only thing you can do is just to wait for Microsoft for them to actually resolve the issue from their end. So from the service dashboard. But once you have a good internet, like you have a very good bandwidth in terms of the network, because Teams requires it to actually have a high bandwidth. So with that high bandwidth, there's always almost impossible for you to have issue that is actually so far your configuration, what you've configured is actually very good. You understand the configuration, what is needed to be done, and you completed all configurations. Of course, after every configuration, you do a test and it worked. Then you know that your configuration is solid. So that's why most of Teams issue are always coming from the backend from Microsoft. And once the issue is reported, just raise the ticket with Microsoft. And if there is anything that they need to actually check from their hand, well, most of the times, once issues are reported, that means their engineers is actually aware already. So they're working on it. So depending on how the issue they're having, maybe it could be from the code, maybe they push an update and all that, then they will resolve that. And once it's resolved, it will also be reported that it has been resolved. So it's only when it has been resolved and there's no it's still affecting your tenant, then they can now do further troubleshooting for your tenants by running some backend diagnostics. So the support engineers have access to different backend diagnostics they can run on the tools that they use to support customers. So those are the kind of issues. But once your bandwidth is okay, then you don't have much issue with the teams. I don't know if that
Okay.
answer your question.
Yes.
All right, you're
Ah,
welcome.
as I said, this teams is wide.
No, it's very well. It used to be
Ah,
Skype for business. Teams came from a very old technology. There used to be a time you have the link, then the link moving to Skype for business. If it was the era of Skype for business, a lot of things there were a lot of things to even learn because it was actually on premise the server. So Teams is like the,
that's
the
right.
the first one that is on the cloud. So Teams was actually built on the cloud, unlike the Skype for business that was on the server. So the Teams was actually built on the cloud. So Teams also allow you to actually integrate other third-party applications. It also allow you to integrate other applications as well. Yes, I wanted to go like if I go to my Teams and click on app, for example, so there are a lot of other applications that you can also use within the Microsoft Teams itself. So I'm looking so for somebody who is a data analyst, for example, that uses a Power BI a lot, the person can decide, okay, let me open Power BI in my Microsoft Teams, right? So there are a lot of integrations, a lot of apps that are actually integrated with the Microsoft Teams. So I don't actually have any dashboard, but within the Microsoft Teams environment itself, I can open Power BI. And if I have a dashboard I'm working on, so instead of me jumping out of Teams, launching Power BI, the standalone application, or going online on a different browser, on a different tab to start checking my dashboard, Teams makes it available for you to view those your dashboard even within the team. So you don't have to leave the team's application. And it's not just for Power BI. A lot of thousands of applications you can use within the Microsoft Teams to to work. Because the idea is collaboration on the go. So because you can open the same dashboard on your teams, your teammates can also that have access to the same dashboard can also open the dashboard and you're collaborating in real time. So you're in a meeting or you're in a call and all that, you can actually collaborate real time on anything you're working on. So just not just it. If you go to apps, you see a lot of applications. So it gives you different applications. It even categorizes them for you. So the applications that are built by Microsoft, you're able to see these are all applications built by Microsoft that you can actually access within Teams. There is one particular application, it's called Viva Learning. Without Viva Learning, you can actually take some courses from Microsoft. Let me see if it is here. Okay, this is it here, Viva Learning. So there are some free courses there that you can actually take within the Microsoft Teams using this Viva Learning. Let me see. So these are different courses, introduction to Excel, share with Sync on OneDrive. So there are some LinkedIn courses here too that you can actually take within here. You see a lot of courses inside the so you don't need to actually leave the Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is actually integrated. LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, so it's actually integrated with the Microsoft Teams. So it's very easy. While I'm working, while I'm collaborating, I don't need to leave the Microsoft Teams with this Viva Learn. And the only way you can access Viva Learning is this way through the Microsoft Teams. There's no URL. Like I want to go to vivalearning.com to access courses. It's not it's within the Microsoft Teams because the idea is for you to be very productive. You're working while working, you're taking courses, you're upskilling, you're learning, you're adding to your skill sets. So that's it basically. So if you go back to the Teams admin portal here, under manage apps. Now we have the way we configure our messaging policy too. We have option to configure policies or to add applications. Now for now, these are different applications that Microsoft that has been added. So there are a lot of them. If you scroll down, you see a lot of applications. It's telling us 2,189 items. So different applications. Now for this, you have the option to see all subscription here. So you can manage your subscriptions within the Microsoft Teams. Within here, you can manage purchase services, purchase subscription. So let's focus on the apps. So if you have another apps, you can actually upload an app. Maybe your organization, you have a custom apps that has been built by your team. You can upload the app here. I don't have any apps that are built. Clicking on the upload, you go to where the application is on your desktop and you can upload the apps. So maybe you don't want to be jumping out of Teams. So within the Teams, it gives you that opportunity to work on the apps. So you can check a lot of other applications. I mean, a lot. Just imagine 2,197. So that anything you want to do, you can just search for it here and check. Let's say I want to use an app called Draw. I want to use an app to draw. So it gives me Corel Draw Hub, it gives me draw.io. So I don't need to actually even jump out of this. So for each of those apps, we can actually configure policies for them, like set permission, settings. So if the app has to be is a paid application, for example, that is not free, you see the plans and prices for those for the apps here too. You have the option to allow all this. So that means if I turn this off, for example, here, that means for users in the organization, if they try to search for the app, it will not be available. You search for the app, so the application is available here. I can decide to add it. Why? Because admin allowed the application. So if there's some application that you don't want users to be able to add, basically you have the option to turn it off for the users from the Teams admin center. Let me go back to the manage app itself. So you can disallow application. It's very easy. Just select the application that you then click on block. That means user will not be able to. Then if you want to customize the application, because there are some third party, there are some application by Microsoft. There are also some application by third parties and organizations that have this handshake with Microsoft. So you can actually, it gives you the flexibility to actually customize those applications. So if an application requires a license like this now, it tells you you can purchase the application. If they're free, it will tell you they're free. The access manager is something you have to pay for. So you'll be able to see something that you can go through. If you click on org wide application settings now, so that will take us to different settings, but we'll get there. All right. So for apps, you can upload again, you can upload new app, you can allow app, you can block the app, you can customize the app. So depending on anything that you've selected here. So app that reports that require subscriptions, you'll be able to see them under all subscriptions here. Then I told you Teams works on policy, the way SharePoint works on permission. So like our messaging policy that we just finished now. So we have what we call app permission policy. So app permission policies controls what apps you want to make available to Teams user in your organization. So the apps that I don't want to make available, so you can create here, from here you can actually create, let's create a policy. If you click on add, I told you, if you remember, best practice, leave the global hug policies. Don't tamper with it, don't edit it. Add your own policy. Disabled app. Let me call it disabled app. So, so you can put a description. This is the list of app that I want to be disabled. So I want to assign this app. So for here, first of all, it will tell you the Microsoft app. I mean, you're using Microsoft products. Would you want to actually disable the Microsoft app? So I'm going to allow all Microsoft app. Then for third-party applications, for example, now, so I have the options are the same. Allow all application, allow specific application and block others, or block specific application and allow others, or block all apps. So I don't want users in my organization to use third-party app. So I'm blocking all the application. Then for custom apps, so individual users, they have customs apps that they've uploaded. Do I want them to have access to those customs apps? So that customs app is actually those apps that are actually uploaded, the way I showed us earlier. So if an app is a default application there, that means the policies will not affect. It's only the Microsoft one that this align all Microsoft application. But for custom application here, okay, I want to allow specific application and block others. So if there are custom applications that I have in the tenant, what happens is that I have the option to, so because I don't have any custom application, because this will pick it will actually show me a list of all the custom application that I've actually installed in the tenant, right? It will show me the list. Then I'll be able to select the one I want to allow and the one I don't want. So already I can say, since I don't have a custom app, I can just say allow all, because I know that the custom app are actually designed by the internally by the users in the organization. Then I click on Save Changes. So after creating the application permission policy, so I can now select it. Selecting it, I can now assign it to users here, right? So if there's any addition, if there's any editing I want to do, maybe I want to change something, I have the edit button to actually edit what I've configured. Then if I want to duplicate the same policy itself, I can duplicate it. Then maybe I just want to change one or two things. I don't want to create from afresh. I'll just duplicate this policy. I'm putting the name. Let me put the opposite. Allowed app. Note, it's going to duplicate the same policy I have, right? But I need to go inside the policy and do my changes to my editing by just clicking on the editing button. If you notice the same thing I did, I configured. I said, okay, I want to block all Microsoft apps. Then I want to allow just third-party apps. Then save. So instead of doing the settings from afresh again, you're just going to toggle the whole thing. Let me select this again. So if I don't want it, I can delete it. If I don't want it, then if I want to assign to users, I just click on manage users. So two options here. Either I assign to individual users or I bulk unassigned to users. Let me assign to users so I can select the users I want to assign to. And I'll user with team. User that start with A. So can search for each of the user. So the search actually works when you put the first three letter of the name. So because if you try to put one letter, it won't bring any information for you. You have to put the first three letter of the user. Then click on apply. So it says assigning disable app to the selected user may take some time to take effect. So changes can't be rolled back immediately. So I have to give it some time until it takes effect before I can actually make the changes. So that's how to basically create an app permission policy and assign to users. So unlike the messaging policies that we created earlier, which you can assign to group, this one you have to assign to users individually. So under managing users here, if you go to users, manage users. So for each user, you'll be able to see the policy. This is the user I think assigned those policies to. If I click on the user, for example, and I go to policies here for the users, so I'll be able to see. So the app permission policy I just created has been assigned to this user. Let me see another policy that was assigned. I think it's created messaging policy. I think the policy has not been assigned yet. So for the users, you'll be able to see each of the policies that have been assigned. If the policy was a direct assignment, you will see. If it was a default assignment, so I told you for the global org policies that always by default for the users. So until you create a custom policy and you assign the policy, that you'll be able to see that those are actually direct assignments. So guys, if you have questions, it's an interactive session today. So like I said, next week we'll be jumping into the Microsoft Teams voice. So we're looking at different voice features for Microsoft Teams. We're just going around checking things that we've been doing so far today. All right. Do you have a question? Please feel free to ask a question before we proceed. Do you have questions? I don't know if
Yep, no
anyone.
problem.
No, no, okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone has heard the term. There is a term that is commonly used, doctor for Microsoft Teams, like something like that. A doctor for Microsoft Teams is actually like a troubleshooting step. Let's say, for example, now you launch your Microsoft Teams on your desktop, for example, and the Teams is not starting. You launch the Teams application from your desktop and it just it didn't start. So there is so called the doctor for is actually the stuff actually fix a lot of issues on the Microsoft Teams clients application especially. So far you've confirmed that the users have license that is active, right? And the license is assigned to the user and it's active, not a license that has actually maybe is suspended or disabled. So that doctor, we call it clearing Teams cache. So this is very important. So it works for both Windows devices and Mac devices. So this is something that you should actually, keep in as part of the archive. Let me share this with us in the chat. I've worked with users in different organizations and they come to meet me and say, my Teams is not loading. I'm having issue with my Teams. So most of the time, I'll just collect the laptop from their hand. Within 1 minute, I'll return the laptop to them. Why? Because of this particular documentation. So this is something you should have in your archive to troubleshoot Microsoft Teams issue, be it on the Windows or on the Mac. It's a very straightforward step. It's just three. I remember working with one of my directors then. He's been having issue with his Teams. Teams is not loading. He has been complaining. So it makes it look like I did a magic on this thing, but because I knew what to do, I knew that it was actually the cache that is making the things not to load. As soon as I clear the cache, I just gave him the laptop. So it makes you feel like a Superman actually, kind of. All right, let's talk about app setup policy. So unlike the permission policy, for app setup policy actually helps you to control how applications are made available to your users in the Teams application. So if you look at this, let me open the global organize settings so you see how the options that we have. So in the global organize settings, we have the option to upload custom app is turned off. Can user pin the app is also turned up. Can user install app? So if you see this, so these are the things that so it's different from the permission policies because the permission policies is actually the apps that you want users to have access to, the Microsoft apps, the third-party apps, the custom application. For the setup policy, if you go to the Teams here and click on the apps, so the setup policy makes you check which of the apps are available. Let's create a setup policy and see what we can configure there. If you click on Add,
Emmanuel, you said you were going to put is it doctors for Microsoft app on the chats? It's not there.
it's on the chat.
Well, I can't seem to see on the
Let
chats.
me reshare again.
Cheers.
Can you confirm if you can see it now? Let me know once you can see it. So for the app setup policy now you see upload custom app. Now in the other way around from the permission policies, this controls the setup, the entire setup for the Teams application itself. So the apps on the Teams application itself. Now, with this policy, do I want users to be able to upload custom applications? I said yes, because I'm working with the users that they are developers, they're trying to build applications, and I want them to be able to upload custom apps. Do I want them to be able to pin the app that is uploaded? Yes, let me show us the pinning of the apps. Let's say, for example, I go to the app, for example, let me pick again, I'm still on my app. Let me just pick a random app. Let me let me open Power BI, for example, now. So Power BI has been opened. Do I want it to be able to pin it? That means right click and pin. So it should be available as part of my tabs here. But if this option is configured to set to no, for example, you turn it off. That means the user will only be able to open the application by going into the app and search and open. So that will not actually make the user to be more productive because some users, they know the application that they constantly use. the ones in the data space, they use the Power BI, the Excel. So they want to be able to pin those applications and have easy access to those applications on just one click. But if I configure that, oh, I don't want them to be able to pin any apps, then it won't make them to be productive. So I select this. So I want to say installed application. Choose which apps and messaging extension you want installed on your user's personal Teams environment. So if you click on add application, for example, now, so based on my app permission policies, I can assign any of the policies that I've created here. Disable apps, then I can search for the app's name here, and then it will bring out that then, but I don't have any application here. Then for my pinned app here, I have the chart, the shifts, the teams, the activity, and the developer. This is actually affecting how my teams will look for the user here. These are the application here. So anyone that I removed here, right? Or I change the direction and apply the policy. That means that is how I want every of the Teams clients for all my users to look like. I want the chart to come. Let's say I want the developers portal to come to be the number one here. I drag it. I want the teams to follow. Then I want the activities to follow. Then if I save this, or let's say I want to add other application as well. Let me select, let me add Power BI. Let me add it there. Then click on add. So I can pick as many applications for my user. So I know based on the department that the user is working, I know the list of the application that they will constantly be using every day for their day-to-day work. So I can help them by creating the app setup policy, then assign those policies to the users in that department. All I just need to do to ask the department, okay, which are the apps that you guys constantly use? So I make it very easy for them. So the environment is set up for them. They're not coming in to start setting up things for themselves. They can easily have access to those applications. So with the help of my setup policy, so once that is done and I'm okay with everything that has been configured, I can click on save and save. You can create this app setup policy. So sometimes the portal has this kind of issue. Okay, I think I've not put the name app setup, app setup for data department. So I can just put the data team, the data department, anything. Let me save it again. The user pin is on, which means a user existing app will be added to the list of the pin app in the policy. Users can rearrange, add, and remove pin as they choose. Save. So the policy has been created. So once the policy has been created, then I need to go to the group policy assignments. Then under group policy assignments, I can add, I can select the group. Let me select any group, alpha, team alpha. So I want the policy to be assigned to this team alpha. Select the policy, the app setup. I think that's the name I used. So it should be rank 1. Then click on apply. Then confirm this. So what it means is that for every users in that group, in that department, the policy will be automatically assigned to them. So the user will just need to sign in into their Microsoft Teams and they are ready to work. They don't need to start going over setting up how they want everything to be, except if they want to just move the pin application up and down. They want to move the pin application up and down. So that's that for setup for the policy. And the last one here is the customize store. So for customized, you can customize the Teams App Store with your organization logo. So the Teams App Store, do you have any logo here? I'm not sure I have any logo here. So you can put in your organization logo. You can put in your logo mark. You can put in your background image and all that. So once you go to the Teams App Store, you'll be able to see this feature. Let me go to Teams. So depending on what is configured, the App Store, because some of the applications, they are not free. They are applications that you pay for. So from the App Store, you'll be able to see everything that you've actually customized for your organization. Please, if you have questions, it's an interactive session, so feel free to ask your question. So that's everything so far for this part. So from next week, we'll start looking at the Microsoft Teams voice. We have one of our subject matter experts, a mentor in the community that specializes with voice. So he's going to actually walk us through the Microsoft Teams voice. It's actually quite a long list anyway, but he's going to walk us through some of those configuration. If you don't have question, please, I want this to be as interactive as possible. You can ask questions.
It's after Microsoft Teams. Where are we going next?
Okay, we are going to the Microsoft Defender security and compliance. So so everything we'll be discussing, the workload, the SharePoint, the Teams, the Exchange. So how do we now protect them? That's Microsoft security and Defender. That's the next we're going. Then after that, we jump into Microsoft Purview, which is compliance side of the security. Then Microsoft Intune. So my hand it's that's for this year. Probably next year we'll start talking about Windows 365 and some other enterprise mobility stuffs.
Thank you. It's nice.
All right. I'm waiting for our questions. And if we don't have questions, we can actually call it a day for today. Then we'll meet again same time. Please try and invite as many people for next week. It's going to be awesome. I'll also be here, even though I may not moderate, but I will be in that session because the person that is coming to take us that session, you're going to enjoy it. He's one of our subject matter experts in the community that specializes with Team's voice. He likes anything Team's voice. If you ask him, he's eating Team's voice. That's what he specializes on. So thank you everyone for joining today's session. I look forward to seeing us next week so that we can, learn other parts of Teams because voice is actually very, very interesting. It's an area that you don't want to miss. A lot of people, once they're done with the Teams administration, they just leave it there. The voice is actually a part that you don't want to miss. So thank you once again, and I'll see you next week. Cheers. Bye for now.
Thank you too. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.